There's a question that haunted Viktor Frankl through the darkest period imaginable. While imprisoned in Nazi concentration camps, watching friends die around him, he asked himself, if everything can be taken from me, my freedom, my family, my dignity, is there anything left that's actually mine? The answer he found there in that hell became a lifeline for millions of people searching for purpose in a world that often feels hollow and chaotic. This is Man's Search for Meaning, one of the most profound books ever written about what it takes to not just survive, but to truly live. And if you've ever felt lost despite having everything, or wondered why happiness always seems out of reach, this book is going to hit different. Takeaway 1. The entire premise of logotherapy, the approach Frankl developed, flips a switch that most of us have backwards. We think happiness is the goal. We chase it like it's the finish line, the thing that will make life make sense. But Frankl argues that happiness isn't something you can hunt down directly. It's not a target. It's a side effect of finding meaning. Think about someone you know who seems genuinely fulfilled. They're probably not sitting around thinking about how happy they are. They're absorbed in something that matters to them, raising kids, building something, fighting for a cause they believe in. The happiness came along for the ride because they were focused on purpose, not pleasure. Here's what you can do with this. Stop asking yourself, how do I become happy? And start asking, what would make my life meaningful? The shift is subtle but seismic. One is a dead end that loops in on itself. The other points you somewhere worth going. Takeaway 2. Frankl lived through something most of us can't fully imagine, but the insight that emerged from the camps applies to all of us in everyday life. There's one freedom that can never be taken from you, no matter what happens. It's the freedom to choose your response. He watched men in the same horrific conditions respond completely differently. Some gave up. Some held on to hope. Some found ways to help others, to maintain their dignity, even in a place designed to strip both away. The external circumstances were identical. What differed was the internal choice. You've probably felt this in smaller ways. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Do you spiral into road rage, or do you let it go? You get rejected. Do you interpret it as evidence you're not good enough, or as redirection towards something better? The event isn't the problem. Your response is the only power you actually have. Takeaway 3. One of the 3 pillars Frankl identifies for finding meaning is through your work, through contributing something to the world that has value. And this is where things get interesting, because it doesn't mean you need a glamorous job or a massive platform. It means doing something that adds to reality, that matters to at least one other person. He describes a woman who found profound meaning in caring for her elderly mother, a janitor who took pride in keeping his hallways spotless, a person working a job they didn't love, but doing it excellently because it supported their family. The meaning wasn't in the title or the paycheck. It was in the contribution. If you're stuck in work that feels empty, ask yourself this: who benefits from what I do? Even if the answer is just my family has a roof because of this, that's legitimate meaning. And if you can't find that answer, it might be time to look for work where you can. Takeaway 4. The second pillar is love, and Frankl is careful not to romanticize it. He's not talking about greeting card sentimentality. He's talking about the deep connection with another person, the experience of knowing someone fully and being fully known. That kind of connection creates meaning that nothing else can replicate. He writes about how even the thought of a loved one sustained him in the camps. The ability to picture another person's face, to feel the reality of that bond, kept some men human when everything else was trying to strip their humanity away. Love is meaning because it's the ultimate recognition that another person's existence matters, and so does yours. If you're feeling disconnected, which is kind of the epidemic of modern life, consider where your deepest connections are right now. Are you actually showing up for the people you care about? Are you letting yourself be known? Because that vulnerability, that willingness to be fully present with someone else, is where real meaning lives. Takeaway 5. This one's going to feel counterintuitive at first. Frankl says that one of the most profound sources of meaning is suffering itself, specifically the way you choose to respond to unavoidable suffering. He calls it the freedom to choose your attitude toward fate. Here's the thing: suffering is part of being alive. You can't optimize your way out of all pain. You might face loss, illness, setback, or failure. When that happens, the question isn't, how do I avoid this? It's, what can this suffering teach me? How do I become someone better because of it? That shift in perspective is where meaning emerges from pain. You've probably met someone who survived something terrible and it made them wiser, kinder, more resilient. That didn't happen by accident. It happened because they found meaning in the struggle. So when you're facing something hard, instead of just enduring it, ask yourself what kind of person it's making you into. Takeaway 6. Frankl identifies something he calls the existential vacuum, and if you've felt it, you know exactly what he means. It's this emptiness that shows up even when you have money, success, comfort, a good life by outside standards. You've got everything, and yet there's this hollow feeling underneath. Modern life is especially prone to creating this because we have more freedom and more comfort than ever before, but less handed-down meaning. Previous generations had religion, tradition, community roles that gave structure to life. You knew your role. Now we've got infinite choice and very few guardrails, which is freedom, but it's also terrifying. You get to decide what your life means, but nobody's telling you what that is, so you feel lost. The antidote isn't more stuff or more freedom. It's actually purpose. It's having something outside yourself that demands you show up and give something. If you're feeling that vacuum, you're not broken. You're just in the very human position of needing to actively choose what matters. Takeaway 7. There's a specific version of this that Frankl calls Sunday neurosis, and it's wild how relevant this still is. It's what happens when you stop being busy and suddenly feel empty. You get to Sunday, you finally have downtime, and instead of enjoying it, you feel this weird anxiety and hollowness. All week you've been running on purpose. Now that you stop, there's nothing underneath. For a lot of people, this manifests as frantically filling free time, scrolling, busy work, anything to not feel that emptiness. But the emptiness is actually trying to tell you something. It's telling you that you need meaning, not just activity. There's a difference between living busy and living purposefully. If you notice Sunday neurosis hitting you, that's information. Instead of just distracting yourself, use that downtime to actually ask, what do I care about? What would make my life feel meaningful? Sometimes the emptiness is the most honest feedback you can get. Takeaway 8. Here's something that sounds simple but messes people up all the time. Trying too hard to achieve something often backfires. Frankl talks about how people obsessing over happiness or obsessing over falling asleep actually push those things further away. The effort itself becomes the problem. There's this concept of hyperintention, when you're so focused on a desired outcome that you create resistance around it. You want to be happy so badly that you develop anxiety about whether you're happy enough. You try so hard to fall asleep that you stay awake. You grasp so hard at a relationship that you push the person away. The intention itself poisons the thing you're trying to achieve. This applies to a lot of life. Meaning isn't something you can force or perform. It's something you discover by showing up authentically to the things that matter. So instead of white-knuckling your way to purpose, relax into it. Take action toward what you care about, but release the desperate need for it to feel a certain way. Takeaway 9. Frankl introduces this idea he calls tragic optimism, and it's probably the deepest insight in the entire book. It's the ability to maintain hope and find meaning even in the face of three things that can't be changed: guilt, suffering, and death. You can't optimize away pain. You can't control loss. You're going to die eventually. So given those unchangeable facts, how do you still choose hope? It's not about toxic positivity or pretending bad things are good. It's about refusing to let those hard truths destroy your will to find purpose. It's saying, yes, life involves suffering and injustice and loss, and meaning exists anyway. Maybe it exists because of those things. The people who embody this aren't naive. They're actually more grounded in reality than people waiting for everything to be perfect to live. Frankl himself is the proof of this. A man who survived the Holocaust, who lost his family, who faced unimaginable horror, and who didn't become bitter. He became wiser. He found meaning in the very fact that he survived and could share what he learned. That's tragic optimism. Takeaway 10. Toward the end of the book, Frankl offers this mind-bending exercise. He asks you to imagine you're living your life for the second time. You already know everything that's going to happen. You know your successes and failures, your relationships, your regrets. Now you get to do it again. What would you change? This is powerful because it cuts through all the noise. You won't think about the promotion you didn't get or the car you didn't buy. You'll think about time spent with people you love, risks you didn't take, ways you played small, moments you were present versus distracted. It clarifies what actually matters. Use this thought experiment the next time you're facing a decision. Ask yourself, if I were living this twice, knowing everything I know now, would I make this same choice? That question has a way of revealing what you actually value versus what you think you should value. If you've made it this far, you understand why this book has saved lives. Frankl didn't just write theory. He lived it in conditions that would destroy most of us. And the message is simple but revolutionary. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control what it means. You can choose purpose. You can find meaning. Whatever you're facing right now, whether it's a search for direction or a struggle with pain or just that hollow feeling that something's missing, man's search for meaning is a companion that says, you're not broken, you're human, and your life can mean something profound. This is Audiobook Bay. If you found this valuable, subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the books that shape how we understand ourselves and each other. Thanks for listening.